Have you ever really thought about your eye color? I mean, we usually just lump it in with hair color as a cosmetic thing, but it turns out it's so much more than that. It's this incredible story of physics, of evolution, and of how we humans adapt. And that leads to the big question we're tackling today. Is your eye color just some random feature, or is it a finely tuned survival tool, something that's been perfected over thousands of years? Well, the answer comes down to one single, really powerful ingredient. And that ingredient is melanin. That's it. The whole incredible spectrum of human eye colors, all of it just boils down to how much of this one pigment you have and how it plays with light. You can think of it like the bouncer at a club, deciding exactly how much light gets to come inside. So, let's start with nature's original blueprint, right? The most common and, you could say, the most evolutionarily battle-tested model out there. This is where having a lot of melanin really shines. By, well, not shining at all. Yep, we're talking about brown eyes. One of the sources calls them the all-terrain tire of human vision, and I just think that's a perfect way to put it. They are the tough, reliable, functional default for high sun environments. They're basically built to perform under the harshest conditions imaginable.
So why do they work so well? Well, it's pretty simple but incredibly effective. All that melanin doesn't reflect light. It absorbs it. This acts like a built-in pair of sunglasses, cutting down glare and shielding the inside of the eye from damaging UV rays. It was an absolutely crucial design feature for our ancestors living near the equator.
And this difference has a certain look to it, right? I love this quote. It's not about being flashy. Brown eyes have this calm, grounded, steady appearance. They're not putting on a glitter show, they just have this quiet confidence. They smolder. It's less fireworks, more focus.
Now, one of the most beautiful variations on this high melanin theme is amber. It really does look like bottled sunlight. There's just enough pigment in there to handle the glare, but not so much that it completely swallows the shine. It creates this incredibly warm, concentrated glow, almost like looking into a tiny campfire. Okay, now let's flip the script and head to the other end of the spectrum. Because when you have less melanin, something totally wild happens. The color you see isn't really about pigment anymore. It's about physics. It's a clever trick of the light, a full-blown optical illusion. And this really breaks it down perfectly. You've got two completely different strategies to solve the same problem. On one side, you have brown eyes, which absorb light for protection in sunny places. And on the other, you've got blue eyes, which evolved in places with less light. Their strategy isn't to absorb light, but to scatter it, which can actually be an advantage when the sun isn't so intense. So how do you even build a blue eye? Well, the most important thing to know is there's no blue pigment involved. None. Instead, you start with an iris that's low on melanin. Light enters, and then tiny fibers in the iris scatter the light's short blue wavelengths, kind of like how particles in the atmosphere make the sky look blue. And then they reflect that blue light right back out at us. That's why calling them the sky you can wear is such a perfect description. Blue eyes don't have a color. They perform a magic trick with light. It is pure optics. The trade-off, of course, is that low melanin means way less protection from the sun, which is why, for people with blue eyes, sunglasses are often more of a necessity than a cool accessory. And following that exact same principle, you get gray eyes. Think of them as a tiny storm glass, always reflecting the light and color of their surroundings. They don't just shout one color, they sort of forecast one. On a cloudy day, they can look like steel. But walk into a green forest and they might suddenly pick up these hints of moss. All right, now we get to the really fun stuff, the beautiful anomalies. The eye colors that are like built on a knife's edge. These are the glitches, the gradients, and the golds that happen only with very specific and very rare combinations of melanin and light physics. And when I say rare, I mean really rare. Just look at this chart. Brown eyes make up the vast majority of the world's population. But the colors we're about to dive into, green, hazel, and others, they occupy these tiny little slivers of the global pie. This quote just nails it. Green eyes are the result of this incredibly delicate recipe. You need a tiny bit of melanin, a hint of a yellowish pigment, and that same light scattering effect you see in blue eyes. If that balance is off just a little bit, the color can easily drift toward blue or brown. It's that complexity that makes them so legendary. Next up, we've got the shapeshifters.
Hazel eyes. What makes them so special is this unique gradient of melanin. You'll often see a concentration of brown or gold pigment right around the pupil, which then fades into green toward the outer edge of the iris. And that very specific distribution is the secret to their magic.
And because of that magic, they're basically the improv actors of the iris world. That melanin gradient makes them exceptionally good at changing their whole appearance depending on the lighting. In the morning, they might look mostly green, but then at sunset, they can just glow with amber and gold. They're constantly adapting and remixing the light around them.
And finally, the rarest of them all, the one that's like a rumor that learned physics. True red or violet eyes are what happens when you have almost zero melanin at all. The iris is basically see-through, so the color you're actually seeing is the light reflecting off the red blood vessels at the back of the eye. It's the exact same thing that causes the red eye effect in flash photos. So, as we start to put this all together, the big takeaway is that every single eye color, from the most common brown to the rarest red, tells a piece of our human story. Each one is an evolutionary footprint, a little snapshot of our ancestors' journey across the planet.
You know, at the end of the day, there's no better eye color. There are just different, brilliant solutions to the universal problem of how to manage sunlight. High melanin absorbs glare in intense sun. Low melanin scatters light to make the most of dimmer conditions. Every single one is a masterpiece of adaptation. So the next time you look in the mirror, try not to just see a color. See the story. See the physics, the adaptation, the incredibly long line of ancestors who passed down that specific, beautiful solution to you. Your eyes are a living chapter in the human story. What does yours say?